There's a war going on right now against YouTube. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I gotta be more dramatic like the Wall Street Journal. Panic is sweeping through YouTube. Even some of the most popular YouTubers are finding their videos demonetized. Right now, a battle is being waged against YouTube, as article after article attacks content creators and the platform itself. But who's behind it all? And why? To answer these questions, we need to look at where it all started. On February 14th, the Wall Street Journal published its article, "Disney Severs Ties with YouTuber Star PewDiePie After Anti-Semitic Posts." The piece was critical of Felix Schellberg, the biggest YouTuber on the platform with over 54 million subscribers. This article led to most other media sites dogpiling on Felix, writing their own articles critical of the biggest YouTuber. However, this was actually the second attack against YouTube. The first attack came on February 9th. The Times, a UK publication, released an article titled, "Big Brands Fund Terror Through Online Adverts." The Times article claimed their investigation uncovered that major companies were unwittingly paying to have their ads appear on various YouTube videos that promoted jihadists, Nazis, ISIS, and other hate groups. Then again, on March 17th, the Times ran another article in the UK, again claiming YouTube was allowing ads to play on videos featuring hate groups. This time, they pointed out that the ads playing on these videos were not only from large companies, but also from the UK government. Then, on March 24th, the Wall Street Journal published an article titled, "Google's YouTube Continues Showing Brands Ads with Racist and Other Objectionable Videos." This was actually the fifth article from the Wall Street Journal by writer Jack Nigas attacking YouTube, echoing the Times' original claim that YouTube ads were funding hate groups. Both the Times articles and the Wall Street Journal articles set off firestorms of controversy, leading almost every media outlet to not only cover the story, but to echo the Times and the Wall Street Journal's attack on YouTube. This in turn has led to the current panic many YouTubers are now facing by seeing their videos be demonetized. The Times and the Wall Street Journal are at the center of this attack on YouTube. But why? Is it merely a coincidence that the Times and the Wall Street Journal had this tag team approach attacking YouTube, creating this controversy? Or is it because the Times and the Wall Street Journal are actually both owned by the same person? They are both owned by News Corp, aka Rupert Murdoch. Rupert Murdoch, the media giant who you may have heard of, is a somewhat controversial figure, most notably known for being the owner of Fox News, as well as the News of the World phone hacking scandal in 2011, where a Murdoch publication was caught hacking into private citizens' phones in order to get information for stories. But Rupert Murdoch owns many publications and many media outlets, and it should come as no surprise that his other UK publication, The Sun, as well as his Australian publication and the New York Post, also owned by Murdoch, all covered the Times article attacking YouTube, or that Fox News reported the story the same day as well. But why? What is Rupert Murdoch's motivation for attacking YouTube? Perhaps his attacks on YouTube are merely a proxy for his true target, YouTube's parent company, Google. Rupert Murdoch has a long history of hatred towards Google. His animosity seemed to take shape around 2009. Murdoch demanded that Google pay him to index publications News Corp owned. Yes, that's right. Rupert Murdoch wanted Google to pay him to allow his publications to show up in Google searches. His company also claimed that Google was violating copyright by displaying snippets of his articles in searches, and that Google manipulates search results to their whim and makes it easier for people to find pirated stories. Google, of course, declined to pay Murdoch, despite Murdoch threatening to sue them over the matter. But his hatred for Google goes down to an ideological level. As described in a New York Magazine article from 2010, he believes the search giant is stealing his content while wrapping itself in that familiar cloak, I'll bet one with the new agey Silicon Valley stylings. Don't be evil. Much as he's done in the newspaper wars he's fought over the last 60 years, he wants to turn the tables, call Google's moral authority into question. In 2009, Murdoch hatched a secret plan to attack Google. They even gave their plan a codename, Project Alesia, named after Julius Caesar's victorious siege of the Gallic forces in 52 BC. The article goes on to say, Murdoch conceived the fight against Google as a political campaign. He mapped out distinct phases. First, Murdoch and Thompson, who is now the chief executive of News Corp, would make a series of provocative speeches to drum up press, using News Corp's media outlets and other interview opportunities to shape the debate. In February of 2009, during an appearance on Charlie Rose, Thompson said, Google devalues everything it touches. In April, Thompson said in an interview, certain websites are best described as parasites, or tech tapeworms in the intestines of the internet. And in December, Murdoch published an op-ed in the Journal declaring that there are those who think they have a right to take our news content and use it for their own purposes without contributing a penny to its production. To be impolite, it's theft. He even accused Google of theft directly to the FCC. The second phase of the plan was for Murdoch to negotiate a deal with Bing so that he could permanently bar Google from showing any of his publications in their search results. And the third phase was to sue Google. Google's response was not to care. Eventually, Murdoch's publications had to stop blocking Google searches, for they were losing too much traffic, and the lawsuit against Google never got off the ground. While Murdoch's attacks against Google in 2009 proved to not be very effective, he did not give up. Throughout the years, Murdoch has released several statements, tweets, and even official complaints to the EU, and a seemingly endless supply of articles by his publications, all attacking Google. Now maybe you think a secret plan to attack Google in 2009 is not evidence of what's going on now. That was a long time ago. Sure, he might not like Google, but would he really continue this crusade after so many years? In 2015, Google sued Mississippi Attorney General Jim Hood, who had since then spent several years investigating Google under piracy claims. Google claimed the Attorney General was acting as an agent for the MPAA, the Motion Picture Association of America. Hood's allegations against Google included claims that Google's autocomplete search feature encourages illegal activity, and claims that YouTube ad revenue contributes to illegal drug sales. Notice how even then, YouTube ads are under moral attack. Google obtained an email between Hood's office and the MPAA. The email detailed a complex plan to hurt Google. TechDirt reports, beyond influencing other attorney generals, using misleading fake setups of searches for bad material, and paying for fake anti-Google research, the lawyers for Hood's office flat out admit that they're expecting the MPAA and the major studios to have its media arms run a coordinated propaganda campaign of bogus anti-Google stories. The email states, "We propose working with the MPAA, Comcast, and News Corp to see about working with a PR firm to create an attack on Google." They even wanted to book a Today Show segment attacking Google. The email continues. After the Today Show segment, You want to have a large investor of Google come forward and say, Google needs to change its behavior. Demand reform. Next, you want News Corp to develop and place an editorial in the Wall Street Journal, emphasizing that Google stock will lose value in the face of a sustained attack by attorney generals, and noting some of the possible causes of action we have developed. As TechDirt states, notice that with the Wall Street Journal piece, they flat out admit that the editorial will be based on the ideas that we have developed. If you work for the Wall Street Journal, your editorial independence just got shot down. Google, however, exposed this plot before it could be put in motion. But why were Hood and the MPAA's plans so similar to Murdoch's? So similar to what's going on now? And why were they so sure Murdoch would go along with this? Perhaps it's because they knew of his shared animosity towards Google. Or perhaps it's because Murdoch owns the movie studio, 21st Century Fox. But perhaps that is not enough for you. Maybe you're asking, why now, Sitch? Why is Rupert Murdoch attacking Google via YouTube now? And it's not only Murdoch, but all the other media conglomerates as well. Is this all simply fueled by Murdoch's old grudge? Of course not. It's fueled by the only reason companies do anything: money. In order to understand why Murdoch and the other media companies are attacking Google at this moment, we have to understand how Google makes its money. Most of us know that Google is quite a rich company, but how exactly does Google make its money? Google makes most of its money from two sources: AdWords and AdSense. Channel 4 explains. The main product is Google's huge pool of users and extensive data about how they behave online. This data is used to match companies with potential customers. Your online habits from YouTube search and Gmail are all used to profile your behavior. On top of that, Google follows your surfing habits through its analytics and AdSense codes, embedded on web pages to track your interests outside of searching. AdWords refers to the sponsored results you see when you search for something on Google. What it shows is not just based on what you searched, but also an algorithm of your habits that Google has collected on you. And AdSense is basically the same thing, only it refers to the banners you see in websites and the ads before YouTube videos. For more information about how YouTube ads work, check out CGPGrey's video on it. It's not only Google's large pool of users, but its ability to target specific users with specific ads that's so appealing to companies. And that's what's allowed it to dominate the internet. But what does this all have to do with Rupert Murdoch? The first and most obvious point is that Google's domination of internet ads directly competes not only with Murdoch, but all media publications' ad revenue, as the majority of media publications are owned by large conglomerates that don't use Google AdSense, but negotiate their own deals with companies or separate ad agencies. However, they do not have Google's extensive metadata and ability to target specific users as effectively as Google does. Thus, to many companies, their ad space does not seem as worthwhile. It's reported by The Drum that the Wall Street Journal's print ad revenue dropped 21% last quarter. These ad revenue drops are not just limited to the Wall Street Journal, as every year more and more people are switching to using media outlets' online publications instead of their print ones. Which means every year, Google's dominance of online ads is becoming more and more of a threat. However, possible motivations for Murdoch goes even further than that. Would it surprise you to learn that Rupert Murdoch is invested with companies that are in direct competition with Google's ad delivery system? Because he is. In a March 27th article by The Guardian titled, "Murdoch is acting in self-interest but has a point about Google." News Corp also has a $10 million stake in AppNexus, an ad tech company rival to Google's DoubleClick, the automated system at the heart of the current controversy over funding hate. How convenient for him. Then there is Unruly, the video ad network that was the very first purchase by Rebekah Brooks when she returned to head Murdoch's UK business. It is quite clear that Murdoch has a commercial imperative to hobble Google, which has snaffled? Brits. Which has snaffled 85% of digital ad revenues across the media sector. How convenient it is that Murdoch Publications would spark such a firestorm of outrage over YouTube and Google, specifically focusing on the integrity of Google's ad delivery system. The Drum reports that News Corp chief executive Robert Thomson spoke publicly about their new ad network the same day the Times published its first article attacking YouTube. Thomson voiced the media owner's ambition to ramp up its programmatic selling, adding that its verified environment means advertisers don't have to feel guilty by association to suspect content, reiterating the Times article. "We believe we are in a far better position than our perceived peers to weather the storm buffeting the media and publishing landscape." The media executive spoke about the premium content his company put out and took a thinly veiled swipe at some of the internet's major brands. Read Google and Facebook, influence on the spread of fake news, and referenced the role programmatic players had in helping to fund militant organizations. "Affinity and integrity are far too often missing in the modern marketplace," said Thomson. "A tweak to an algorithm or a fact check here or there does not solve the basic problem. Ad agencies and their programmatic ad networks are also at fault, as they sometimes artificially aggregate audiences, and these are then plied with content of dubious provenance. The agencies win, the fabricators of the take win, and the advertisers in society both lose." How convenient that News Corp is able to talk up their ad system, which competes against Google using the negative press they created. But wait, there's even more. These attack stories all conveniently come at the heels of none other than a recent announcement of YouTube's anticipated YouTube TV. YouTube TV will offer live streaming TV content that will directly compete with current TV providers. Would you be surprised if I told you that Rupert Murdoch owns partially or fully several TV content providers? Because he does. He also owns a third of Hulu, something that would also be in direct competition of YouTube TV. You know who else owns a third of Hulu? Disney. Interesting that the Wall Street Journal went straight to Disney when they attacked PewDiePie. But YouTube TV is a huge threat to all TV providers. But don't take my word for it, the Wall Street Journal agrees. Here's their March 1st article on that very subject. How YouTube TV could help Google finally crack the TV ad market. YouTube TV, Google's new skinny bundle of live streaming broadcast and cable channels, is clearly the company's attempt to challenge traditional pay TV distributors and appeal to cord cutters. It's also a backdoor for Google to squeeze its way into traditional TV advertising business. Google has long wanted to steal a chunk of the more than $70 billion US TV ad market. Interesting that they use the word steal, as if the companies that already exist are entitled to that market. while Maureen Bassetti, Chief Partnerships Officer at the ad buying firm Initiative, said, "Google's motivation is clear. They do want to take TV money. They want to play in the TV space." The article continues. YouTube TV will be available across the US, allowing it to sell ad inventory on a national basis, unlike cable operators that have geographic limitations. Plus, it should be able to use better targeting technology and vast reams of consumer data to deliver ads to specific audiences. That's right. YouTube TV will allow Google to use their targeted ads, the ones which have dominated the internet, and transfer that technology to a TV platform. I wonder why all these publications, owned by media conglomerates, are so quick to attack YouTube and Google's ad delivery system. Analyst Michael Nathanson said, "Google's primary play with YouTube TV is to break into the in-home and television advertising market, selling targeted advertising in the network ad slots that typically go to cable operators." But most broadcast and cable networks still sell the majority of their advertising on a national basis, and more targeted advertising could, in theory, put TV's high ad prices in jeopardy. Scott Ferber, chief executive at the video ad tech firm Videology, even speculates that since Google is so rich, they could absorb early losses, lowering the product subscription rate to steal market share from competitors. I'd be nervous if I'm a TV provider. Now you may be asking, why would the Wall Street Journal publish this article? Wouldn't it expose their fears? That's the point. The purpose of this article is a call to arms, to rally other media companies to join their crusade against Google. Last December, the Drum talked to Will Lewis, publisher of the Wall Street Journal. Here's their section titled, "A Message to Other Publishers." Lewis talks about what he believes are Google and Facebook's unfair advertising practices, as well as the proliferation of fake news. News Corp will struggle to effect change without the support of the rest of the news industry, so Lewis bangs his drum. We at Dow Jones and News Corp have done more than our bit for the industry to batter away at getting these companies to do this. Others have also got to do the same and stop being so weak and lightweight and start being much more vociferous and strong. In part 2, I will not only go over more motivations for Murdoch and other conglomerates to attack YouTube, but also why these articles came out at the exact time they did, as well as covering 2 more attacks on Google and YouTube that have been discussed but not thought of in this context. Until then, subscribe to my channel, smash that like button, follow me on Twitter!